Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Your Excellency. Good afternoon, Edie, Russell, and all other distinguished guests who have come together this afternoon for this great cause. COVID 19 upended the world in many ways, but out of every crisis comes some form of opportunity. The world is increasingly turning its attention to recognizing the negative psychological impacts in our everyday lives, and the young people have not shied away from boldly addressing them. Statistics worldwide are showing that mental health challenges have gripped our demographic. In Jamaica, we have definitely not escaped this reality, as 60% of people treated at hospitals for attempted suicide are under the age of 24. Our young people are at risk, and the situation is dire. For many young Jamaicans, school has been positive. For others, while school has been their escape from the negative socio-economic and violent realities in their homes, unfortunately, it has also been a place where they don't feel supported, especially for those struggling with their mental health and have trouble accessing counselors they feel that they can trust. Social norms have forced our youth to toughen up to face the world, particularly our young males, who have been socialized to remove their emotions and ignore their intrinsic struggles. Violence within the home and school poses another threat. Physical, verbal, and emotional harm to children, under the guise of discipline, in many instances causes lifelong trauma. According to a 2015 study on the prevalence and impact of bullying in Jamaica, almost 30% of sample students feared going to school because of bullying. Our schools should be a safe space in every meaning of the word for every student. COVID 19 changed the meaning of the word safe, but it has been so much more than a physical health crisis. When schools closed, the short break got longer and the excitement quickly became despair. Many students felt anxious and distressed with the extensive uncertainties COVID 19 caused. This period will never be forgotten. The cut was deep, and the scar will be long lasting if the world does not act now. The good news is that several countries have made significant improvements. UNICEF Jamaica, with guidance from its Youth Council, acted on responses from a U-Report poll and pivoted to establish a chat line on the same platform. Thus, You Matter was born, a partnership between the Ministry of Health and Wellness and UNICEF. It engages youth on their own terms without stigma, using a mode of communication with which they are comfortable: text messaging. It is easy to access the service. You just message the very simple but important word: support. As a youth representative, I struggled with my mental health, especially during the height of the COVID 19 pandemic. And with the support of UNICEF, I spoke out about it, hoping to help others who may have experienced something similar. I blogged about this, sharing my experience as a youth advocate during a very low point. I also made it my point of duty during my time as primary spokesperson of the National Secondary Students Council in Jamaica to speak about maintaining good mental health and sharing best practices as often as I could. The Reimagine Education report, a youth-led submission to the Education Transformation Commission, presented to the Prime Minister of Jamaica, is where youth made their dreams of a better education system come alive. Students share that a more positive student-teacher relationship can improve their lives at school, allowing each student to feel valued and to feel seen. We must continue to increase the access to services and resources. As a Jamaican citizen, it is easy to gain access to a physician when you have the flu, but this is not the case for those challenged with their mental health. Support is somewhat of a luxury, sometimes costing more than the minimum wage in the country. How can this be when it ought to be a part of the regular routine for any member of society, especially our young? At the legislative level, we look forward to the development of a cross-sectoral national policy on mental health, geared at improving the mental health of adolescents and children, focusing on early prevention in communities and public institutions, with emphasis on confidentiality in schools and increasing conversation surrounding mental health. Mental health maintenance ought to be taught and discussed in schools, starting at an early age. Start the conversation now so that we can foster an environment for students to learn about these issues and recognize the signs. Each student must be viewed as individuals with their own circumstances and their own realities, deserving of a suitable environment in which they can flourish. Schools must be fit for purpose. It is not only a space for academics, but it is there to foster personal growth of each student. This issue is not linear. It is not simple. It will take a village to mend what has been broken. Each step is vital. We need to normalize conversations about mental health to reduce the stigma. The truth is we aren't quite there yet, as some youth don't even wish to use the term mental health, as it is labeled and associated with being crazy. We must work towards removing these negative connotations. Mental health, like our physical health, is ultimately a positive thing that helps inform our decisions, and behaviors so that we can not only survive, but we can thrive. As world leaders, we implore you to find out what your step needs to be and to make it. We need all stakeholders to come together in an intentional manner to address these critical issues. We need all hands on deck. As I've learned over the years, big changes comes from many small steps towards the same goal. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ree-Anna, for those really inspiring words. I think it's inspiring to hear you speak. It's inspiring to hear your advocacy to world leaders to act now. It's also really informative. I know today we're talking about education, but education on its own cannot deal with the magnitude of the mental health challenges facing our young children today. It requires a whole of society, multi-sectoral accountability. So thank you for highlighting that point and the need for the education systems and services to work together hand in hand with health, child protection, social welfare, justice, and other areas of work. Thank you so much for all that you do.